Palestine, at least 66 children have died of malnutrition during the Israeli siege of the Gaza Strip. In China, authorities registered 6 deaths amidst flooding in Guizhou province due to heavy rains. In Guyana, members of the National Assembly called for a full investigation on President Irfan Ali's role in the Lamborghini tax evasion scandal. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Palestine, at least 66 children have died of malnutrition during the Israeli siege of the Gaza Strip. A statement issued by the Gaza government media office condemned the Israeli army's continued restrictions on the entry of food to the besieged civilian population. The office called these actions a continuing crime against children, as well as the shameful international silence in the face of the suffering of children who are left to famine, disease, and slow death. This statement was issued days after UNICEF warned that the number of infants dying from malnutrition was increasing at an alarming rate, with more than 5,000 children hospitalized in May alone. Iran banned the director of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, from accessing its nuclear facilities. Iranian Foreign Minister Saeed Abbas Araghchi accused Grossi of being responsible for Israeli aggression and questioned his insistence on visiting nuclear sites bombed by Israel. The head of diplomacy emphasized that the ban complies with the Iranian parliament's decision to stop cooperating with the international organization until the safety of the Persian country's nuclear activities is guaranteed. The parliamentary regulation also includes a ban on surveillance cameras from the Atomic Agency after discovering the leak of confidential data from its nuclear facilities in Israeli documents. And in the United States, environmentalists, indigenous, and activists protested against the future Alligator Alcatraz immigration prison, which, according to Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, could be open on Tuesday to hold up to 3,000 migrants. Protesters gathered in the Everglades Nature Park to denounce the environmental damage in this area west of Miami, where 36 native species of animals and plants are threatened or endangered. The protest escalated after a tour of the area with DeSantis broadcasted by a television program on Friday night, in which he suggested that the detention center built in an abandoned airport could begin to receive migrants as of Tuesday.
It's not good for the water, it's not good for the wildlife and the habitats. Why is it here? It totally undermines and undoes a lot of the brilliant restoration work that's been going on and has been so heavily funded through the years, and it shouldn't be here.
And in the United States, recent data show that over 59,000 migrants without criminal records have been detained. The current Trump administration maintains an all-time illegal detention record of 59,000 migrants, exceeding the capacity limit authorized by Congress and marking the highest number in the country's history. The White House demands 3,000 arrests per day from immigration and customs enforcement agents, 3 times the average arrest rate at the beginning of Trump's second term. Arbitrary detentions are accompanied by mistreatment and abuse, evidencing the systematic violence against the migrant community in the country. We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We're going to be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. On Sunday, Chile is holding primary elections to choose the candidate on the left for the next presidential elections to be held next November the 16th. 8 political parties, which make up the Unity for Chile coalition, are taking part in the primary election. On Sunday, people will be choosing between Gonzalo Winter, Janet Jara, Carolina Toja, and Jaime Mulet after a campaign in which they made their proposals known to try to capture the highest voting intention. In Chile, there are over 15.4 million registered voters, and for this Sunday's primary elections, they have set up over 2,000 polling stations throughout the country. And in Peru, the government has ruled out the possibility of taking in prisoners deported from the United States. Justice Minister Enrique Alcántara said that the Peruvian government is refusing Washington's request to accept deported prisoners because such a procedure is not in keeping with the country's current regulations. Moreover, he said that at present Peruvian prisons are overcrowded, which is why the government is building 5 new prisons. Alcántara said that for the time being, they are considering sending prisoners to El Salvador if the Constitution and Peruvian laws were to allow for it. And in Colombia, after several extraordinary sessions, the Chamber of Representatives approved the pension reform previously endorsed by the Senate. The reform, one of the main economic and social initiatives promised by President Gustavo Petro, was approved with 104 votes in favor and 9 against. It seeks to expand the coverage of the system through a 4-pillar model, ranging from subsidies for seniors without pensions to voluntary contributions. It is important to highlight that the initiative does not contemplate an increase in the pension age, but it will continue to be 57 years for women and 62 for men. In China, authorities registered 6 deaths amidst flooding in Guizhou province. The flood control center confirmed the preventive evacuation of nearly 80,000 people to nearby localities, given the risk posed by the intensity of the rainfall. Rescue teams, firefighters, and volunteers are cleaning up sediment and draining water, as well as searching for possible victims trapped in landslides. For its part, the National Development and Reform Commission allocated funds to support relief efforts aimed at restoring affected infrastructure. And Uruguay declared a red alert due to the polar cold and after the death of 7 people living on the streets. Let's see details with our colleague, Mateo Grille.
The Uruguayan government declared a red alert due to the intense polar cold wave that is sweeping the country and which has claimed the lives of 7 homeless people in the last few. The government authorized the compulsory removal of people living on the streets to be transferred to shelters managed by the state itself. This is the case of this one in Sports Plaza number 2 in the Govt neighborhood, where Lil arrives after spending nights in the bitter cold.
The
existing operations were not even sufficient, and the number of people who took to the street was much more than what would have been solved at the time. And the cause and the consequences we are suffering today. We have already had 9 deaths, not all of them due to the cold, and with other pathologies of the people accumulated with the consequence of the tragedies that are occurring.
In recent years, the number of people living on the country's street has multiplied, and the existing shelters have been overwhelmed by the extreme weather. The situation has also led to other social initiatives, such as this one by the Peñarol Soccer Club, which has offered its closest stadium to house more than 130 homeless people. There, groups of supporters are collaborating in a soup kitchen.
This is a kitchen to support the people who come to sleep here at the club. Fortunately, the club opened so that people could come here now in the winter, so that they would not sleep in the streets and all night. We know about the mites and so on. Solidarity Carbonera has initiatives in all the neighborhoods. Solidarity Carbonera gives between 300 and 300 meals in each initiative it has. We understand that sports clubs have to have a commitment with society, with the community. They are part of it and cannot look the other way. A sports club, in the case of soccer, cannot be only soccer ball, which it is very important, but other things happen.
Al caer la noche, decenas de personas
At
se
nightfall,
acercan a este
dozens of people
estadio para
come to this
dormir con
stadium
cierta
to sleep with
protección.
some protection.
En este
In this
espacio
space,
hay
there are
colchones y
mattresses and
frazadas
blankets
donde
where
las
people
personas
sleep
duermen
together with
junto
their
con
few
sus pocas
belongings,
pertenencias
because
porque
the
las carencias
shortages
son
are
muchas
many
y
and have been
vienen
there for a
desde hace
long
tiempo.
time.
Viene de gobierno a gobierno la cosa, ¿no? Esto es una
The thing
cadenita,
comes
¿no?
from government to government,
Situación de
doesn't
calle,
it?
creo que
This is a little shame.
tenemos más de 4.000
We have
personas,
more
¿no?
than 4,000 people
Y
in
no
street
todos los
situation,
casos son lo
and
mismo.
not all the cases are the same.
La necesidad es
The
mucha,
need
¿no?
is great, and the shortages
carencias
are
se notan.
noticeable.
The
The truth is that everyone who arrives comes with a different story, as we all live, but there are many problems in the social area, many problems in the emotional area, as if they were abandoned.
Solo en los últimos días se han abierto 4 nuevos refugios.
In the last few days alone, 4 new shelters have been opened and more than 1,000 new quotas have been added, which clearly shows the seriousness of the situation. In the last few hours, the executive branch has confirmed that the number of homeless people who are staying overnight in shelters, such as this one in the Palacio Peñarol, has increased significantly. They also confirmed that the red emergency regarding this weather situation will be extended until next Tuesday.
Mateo Grille, TeleSUR, Montevideo, Uruguay.
In Brazil, the government declared a state of maximum alert and ordered an evacuation due to risk of flooding and landslides in the town of Rio Grande do Sul as a result of heavy rainfall. Local authorities and civil defense have issued an urgent appeal to the population to leave risk areas in the south of the country due to worsening weather conditions. In the days of heavy rainfall, soils can no longer absorb water, increasing the danger of flash floods of rivers. Meteorologists are forecasting a month's worth of rainfall for the next 12 hours, which could worsen the situation. The recent rains have left a total of 5 people dead and 1 missing. Authorities fear these figures will increase if immediate preventive measures are not taken. Meanwhile, in South Africa, the government declared a national disaster in the Eastern Cape after deadly floods left more than 100 people dead. Heavy rains, winds and snowfall have devastated entire communities, once again demonstrating the effects of the global climate crisis on the most vulnerable people. The districts of Amathole and Tambo have been the hardest hit, with 77 and 10 confirmed deaths, respectively. In this regard, authorities continue to search for 2 missing children while working on the identification of 7 more bodies. The environmental catastrophe left a total of 6,869 households affected, leaving 4,724 people homeless throughout the province. We have our second break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at TeleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. A final break, don't go away. Welcome back. In Guyana, members of the National Assembly called for a full investigation on President Irfan Ali's role in the Lamborghini tax evasion scandal. A member of a Partnership for National Unity coalition demanded an independent investigation into the allegations that the president played an active and direct role in the fraudulent luxury car import tax evasion. They allege that it is likely that the Lamborghini scandal may not be the only time the president has allegedly intervened in the work of the Guyana Revenue Authority. Every year, Guyana loses tens of billions of dollars through smuggling and under-invoicing.
We demand that the scope of the investigation includes the possibility that he is a regular conspirator and facilitator of tax evasion schemes. Every year, Guyana loses tens of billions of dollars through smuggling and under-invoicing. These are first and foremost criminal offenses and must be treated as such. If the allegations against President Ali are confirmed, then this is good enough reason for Guyanese to take the opportunity to throw him and his party out of government come September.
In Serbia, protests in outrage over the 2024 tragedy in Novi Sad and in rejection of the Vučić government were described on Saturday as a call for civil war by Parliamentary Speaker Ana Brnabić. Saturday's demonstrations were repressed by the police, and the authorities justified the action with the demonstrators' radical slogans and their ultimatum to force early elections. Meanwhile, the government accuses the organizers of seeking a color revolution with foreign support. Protesters demanded the resignation of President Alexander Vučić, early parliamentary elections, and an end to what they describe as an authoritarian government. And in Hungary, people demonstrated at the Pride March in Budapest, banned by the government and turned into an act of defiance against the far-right conservative Prime Minister Viktor Orban. Over 200,000 people participated in the Budapest Pride March despite it being banned by the government. The president wanted to avoid images of violent repression and rule out any intervention by the security forces, but threatened the sex-diverse community with legal consequences. This is a demonstration for LGBTQ+ rights, which sought to defend the freedoms of this community, turned into a massive anti-government protest, becoming one of the largest displays of public opposition against Prime Minister Viktor Orban. The Russian Ministry of Defense reported that central troops took control of a new town in the Donetsk People's Republic. The military agency reported that during the offensive action, the group killed at least 1,235 Ukrainian army soldiers in the midst of the operation. They also reported the loss of military equipment on the Ukrainian side in the last 24 hours, including car bombs, armored transport vehicles, artillery systems, among others. In this sense, the Russian command considered the objective of the attack achieved and confirmed impacts on the assigned targets. In Russia, the House of Family Traditions Christian is an initiator of research programs with different projects that not only strengthen the connection with the past, but also contribute to the creation of new social connections and the strengthening of national identity. Oleg Jasnitsky with the details.
To our children, because in this unstable and constantly changing world, it is essential to have a foothold, a solid foundation and a sense of belonging, and to understand that our ancestors are here, and that we want our children to live here. And what if not family history or understanding all that was hidden, the fate of those people can provide us with this support.
The history of each family reflects the most tragic and decisive moments of each era. It shows how the common people lived the great events, their family and cultural traditions. But it is also the way to maintain the dialogue between the different generations, remembering and valuing the ancestors.
The process of studying family history undoubtedly contributes to the development of healthy communications and connections, both within the family and in general, in the external environment, in the community and in society. We observe how people, when they meet, study. Here one studies, here another study. They may not be related, but this vector of union can unite them so much that they simply become stronger. With a principle of good neighborliness, community unity in this interest. This is an inexhaustible source of living water and inspiration.
The importance of these projects is related to this moment in which history had been rewritten. These initiatives, such as the organization of genealogical festivals, led by House Christian, lay the foundations for the development of national identity. By showing small details of daily life of a particular family, many can feel the identity and contact with the common past of a whole people.
Here we are in our genealogical stand. We are a company that does genealogical research, and here you can see different artifacts that represent the history of a family. Among different artifacts, that we have here in our stand. One of the most interesting is this photograph. It is 121 years old, a military group that consists of 1,150 people, and the interesting thing is that in the photograph you can see all the details of the people. You can see the faces, their shape, more details you can see.
One of the most outstanding projects of Haus Christian was the reconstruction of the genealogy of the Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin. This study confirmed that he was of peasant origin, very humble. Gagarin was a representative of the working class who had the honor of being the first man in space, and he filled an entire people and humanity with pride.
TeleSUR, Moscow.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.